Welcome to Infinity Rewatch. It's me, Andrew Fantasia, and as always, I am joined by this man whose name is spelled with one N and a Y, and it is exactly where you think it is.
What's up, everybody? Ryan J. Marvel here, and we are back doing some Infinity Rewatching. And today is She-Hulk episode 4, or as I'd like to call Marvel Strikes Back, because they made fun of the fans a lot in this one.
Ooh, yeah. And you know what? The
They
fans deserved
trolled
it
us.
all.
They trolled us so hard in this one. Oh man, it's so good. I was not surprised, and I'm not let down either, because it's kind of like you're right. We deserve it at this point. We poked a lot of fun at them. It's their turn and the right show and platform to make fun of us at this point.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I've said many times on this show, I'm not a Twitter fan. Like, I just don't like it there. It's not a comfortable, healthy place to be. But like over the past 2 weeks, I've found myself on Twitter more often than I used to be. And it just so happens that, the past month has been a huge month for TV. We've got The Sandman, we've got She-Hulk, we've got The Rings of Power, we've got Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. And everywhere on Twitter, no crevice is safe from just bombardment on these shows for the stupidest little things. And it's just served as a reminder to me, this is why I don't come here. This is why we can't have nice things on Twitter. So if you like, what perfect timing for me to try to get back into Twitter to remind myself why it's not worth it. Because this is not worth it. And I'm so glad Jennifer Walters called everybody out today.
Oh man, did she ever? And not only that, like, we always talk about on this show how Kevin Feige kind of indirectly talks to the fans through the show. Like, he's talking to the fans. He's like, hey, we hear you. It's happening. Don't worry. Here's a little thing for you to keep you on the right track. This time around, it's like, it's like let's start with this magician. First of all, I loved how heavy metal this episode was. When Thor: Love and Thunder, which also came out today, when they did the new intro, it was like they did this like 80s metal, like I was like, I am all like, I wish that replaced the orchestrated version. And I was like, yes, all right, let's do this. And it's a freaking magician. And out of all the names, they chose Donnie Blaze. That is the biggest slap in the face to the fans. Everyone saw in the trailer, they were convinced it was Johnny Blaze. And which makes sense, because like, it's a theatrical element. How on earth they put a motorcycle in there is beyond me. But they could have adapted him in some way, shape, or form, and it would have been perfect. But no, it's Donnie Blaze.
If you look really closely, you can see Ralph Boner in the audience. He's enjoying the hell out of that show.
Exactly. It's a total Ralph Boner thing. And it's interesting, because like, so does that mean like we're not getting Ghost Rider? Because that's my prediction. I am predicting that Ghost Rider will be introduced. The planets are aligning here. You got Blade, you got the mysticism, especially in this episode, which is interesting.
Yes.
And on top of that, you got you had Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the other thing that's kind of aligning the fates is like, you could easily do a Midnight Suns. You could easily just take that exit off the highway and just like, let's do Midnight Suns. Let's go. And Donnie Blaze.
You can.
Ralph Boner moment.
It is a total Ralph Boner moment, but you can sleep soundly, my friend. I promise. There's no way in hell, pardon the pun, that they won't use Ghost Rider: The Spirit of Vengeance in this. Like, there's no way they would waste that opportunity. He's there. He belongs to them. Mm-hmm. They like it. It's there. It's just a matter of when, not if. And this was just, a Ralph Boner. This was just a, hey, yeah, you're getting X-Men characters, and we're gonna put this guy, but he's not who you think he is, haha. And just to have fun with us, because this was a very trolly episode, and that's all part of the fun. I want to talk to you about this magician though, because I feel like this was an episode, Ryan, that was modeled after my own heart. And I don't know if I've ever told this story on the show. I feel like I must have at some point, maybe during a Doctor Strange thing, but I couldn't remember if I told it. So stop me if I start sounding like I'm repeating myself. But I hate magicians, Ryan.
No.
I do. I specifically the kind like Donnie Blaze here. It's just, to me, it represents a part of my childhood that was so disappointing, because there was a gentleman by the name of David Copperfield who would always pop up on TV.
I love David Copperfield.
Yeah, that man was on television screens. It feels like every other night in the 1990s, David Copperfield was showing up and doing stuff. And I would watch him a bunch. He would come on, and I'd be like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And he was doing this one thing where he said he was going to turn the stage into a haunted house, and he was going to have ghosts and spirits fly across the theater, and there was going to be this big spectacle. And I was like, oh, this is insane. He's bringing ghosts into the theater. But of course, first, before he did that, they had to cut to a commercial break. So as they cut to a commercial break, the announcer says, David Copperfield will return with his next illusion after these messages, whatever. And I turned to my aunt, who was in the room with me, and I asked her, I said, why did they say that word? She goes, what do you mean? I said, why did they call it an illusion? An illusion means it's not real. David Copperfield's really going to bring ghosts on the stage, right? She goes, no. He's just doing tricks. None of the stuff he does is real. And when I learned that, and I learned that that's how magicians operate, I was like, how dare you? How dare you deceive this naive child who just all I ask for, simply nothing more, nothing less, is for magic to be real. And along comes these D-bags with their eyeliner, thinking they're all cool. And like, to this day, it still irks me. Like, I've gone to like parties and there's people there who do magic, and they're like, hey, Andrew, would you like me to guess your card? And I'm like, hey, Jack, would you like me to kick you on the balls? Like, I can't stand, I hate those people. Like, get them away from me. So I love that this whole episode was just basically crapping on like horrendously pretentious stage magicians, because it's about time, if you ask me.
You really opened a Pandora's box on yourself there. I hear you. There's a cheesy movie that I personally enjoy, and I loved watching it with my family. It's called Now You See Me, and it's with Mark Ruffalo himself. And he's in it, and also Morgan Freeman's in it, and also Michael Caine is in it. And it's about these magician thieves,
right?
But there's a particular moment that I think that really lines up with what you're saying. And the main protagonist in this one, he doesn't like magic. He thinks it's stupid and all this stuff. And there's a kind of like a sidekick character, and she kind of acts as like the love interest in a way. And she tries to do a trick on him, and she ends up figuring it out. And she performs this little card trick for him. And he's just like, see, it's deception. It's totally stupid, right? Like, it's like, you fooled me, kind of thing. And she's like, did I have a moment where I suspended your belief on the, she says it way more poetically, but the whole stretch of the line is like, did you not have a moment where did you not have a moment of disbelief? Like, just like a moment where you realize life could be more than what it is. And he kind of has this kind of like aha moment, right? And that's the joy I love about magic, because I love magic. I love magic shows. I agree with you. There are magicians that do annoy me and just makes me want to, just knock them flat out. But there are really good magicians that make you forget the way the world works for all of like 30 seconds, and it's totally worth it. And that's what I enjoy about magic. That's what I really like about it. Is like, for a moment, did you not have fun, and did you not suspend your disbelief and just realize that there could be more to life? And that's kind of a neat little thing. She says it way more poetically in the movie, and kind of really lands the moment there. But the messaging is there, right? Like,
Mhm.
and that's the thing, and that's what I loved about David Copperfield's magic. As cheesy as it was, there's a really hilarious one on YouTube that you can watch with terrible quality, where he learns how to fly, and it's just so funny.
Is he going like this? I think I remember that. He's like
Yeah, he
lifting up.
goes like
Yeah,
that. And he flies through, and there's a woman, and he like just flies around her all romantically. It's priceless. It is the best in magic I've ever seen. But yes, anyway, I really, really love that. And the second thing is magic can be a really good show. Like, it can be a good, like, it can make you a really good performer in terms of just like confidence and looking really flashy kind of thing. I remember a show called Keys to the VIP, and this one episode was about it's about dudes in clubs and who could score the most numbers. Clearly the show would not fly today. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But anyways, it's whoever gets the most numbers gets the keys to the VIP. And if they get to the VIP, they get a little cash, and they get to critique the next person trying to get the keys to the VIP.
uh-huh.
One guy comes in, and he brings with him a deck of cards, and he does magic tricks, and he killed that night. He got all the numbers. He was getting numbers left, right, and center. And he was funny. He was slick, but those tricks just left other competition in the dust.
See, now if there was a magician, like a professional stage magician, who
Mhm.
approached it the way you were talking about, who approached it with that sense of wonder, like if there was like a Mr. Rogers kind of guy who did
Yeah.
magic tricks, I think I could get behind that, because he's doing it for that purpose, to instill the wonder and to instill the suspension of disbelief and make you step out of the world and the way it works for a while. It's the kind of people like this guy you're talking about, or like Catch
Mhm.
Me If You, or whatever that movie is. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Like, I remember the trailers for that movie coming out. I'm like, you're telling me I got to spend, if I watch this, I have to spend 2 hours with these smug a-holes? I'm like, no, thank you. Like, it's that whole persona of like, look at my black nail polish, and now I'm going to open another button on my shirt and maybe guess your card. I'm like, oh my, like, there's not enough f-offs in the world
Mhm.
for those type of people.
I'm gonna send you a link later, but it's because like there's the show Penn and Teller Fool Us,
Mhm.
and it's obviously Penn and Teller. We all know Penn and Teller. They're famous shock magicians, and they do a reality show where they have different magicians perform a trick, and then they have to figure it out. And if they figure it out, then of course they're not fooled, and you lose. But there's been some really good magicians on there, and one of my favorites is called, his name is Shim Lim, and he does this really cool, doesn't talk, but he does this really cool just magic, and it's fun to watch. It's really fun.
Do you think Donnie Blaze could have fooled Penn and Teller?
No. No, definitely not. But I mean, I okay, so let's get into it. So first of all, Donnie Blaze, biggest slap in the face right there. But the timing is also interesting, talking about the planets aligning, like I said earlier with Ghost Rider. First of all, now we know there's like a fiery world where there's a
Mhm.
quote unquote goat man, who she made a deal with. Now we don't know if that's just Marvel playing around with us and letting the Feige radar go out of control, like Mephisto confirmed, which is funny because that was one of your predictions there. So Mephisto confirmed could be a thing here, but like we saw these demons essentially, which was a little later in the episode, but yeah, they've opened the gates. Essentially, they have now quite literally opened the gates to what could be Mephisto's realm. And on top of that, D23 is, literally this weekend. So you could tease the idea of Ghost Rider, and then, hey, by the way, Ryan Gosling's Ghost Rider, and we're doing Midnight Suns.
Right. Yeah. So and that's like the tease here is perfect because you don't open with Mephisto. You work your way up through the lesser demons first, and you get them all pouring out of this hole, and then maybe you meet something a little bigger, and then we finish with him. Because as far as I know of Marvel supernatural lore, which is not a lot, I think he's the top of the food chain down there, right? There's nobody more powerful than him. So you save him for those. I'm at this point, I'm like 95% sure they're saving him for Agatha, for the Coven of Chaos, because that's the perfect place.
That would make sense, and Agatha could replace Enchantress in that idea, and because Agatha does work with Mephisto a lot, so it kind of all the things kind of align and stack up really nicely. But I like what you're saying is that, again, I think Marvel's doing the classic build it up story, which is like, like we talked about with Iron Man, is you don't start with the main villain first. And now, because they have this Disney Plus platform, they have these movies now, you don't have to go straight to the big events. You can build up to it and then really play it out. Now, at the same time, as much as I am a fan of that, I am also like, let's kind of get to the point. You know what I mean? Like, let's get to get to things. But you and I seem to have little differing opinions here, because you like things to play out a little bit more. Because it's a show about character building. It's about building up She-Hulk. It's not about the cameo appearances. But my point is that, like, when it feels like a filler episode, then you start to get impatient. You know what I mean? Like, it's a filler episode, and the second you know that, you're like disconnected right away. Now, She-Hulk hasn't had that yet, and in fact, I think She-Hulk's platform works so well because at first I was like, this should be a movie, but at the same time, it shouldn't, because it should be a law show where it should be a law show, but where superheroes come in and like are having law troubles. But we get all these cameos at the same time as where I think that we're getting this story arc of, like, as she's being a lawyer, she's learning about power and responsibility through dealing with the cases in which she's dealing with that happen to relate to something that's going on in her life, right? So I think this is a beautiful platform for her, and I think that, again, I do think that the cameos, as much as she's saying they're not like it's her show, that's part of her show.
Yeah, it's part of her show. It's part of the beats of the tune that is She-Hulk, is to have somebody come in and do a thing in the courtroom with her and then leave. And I am all for the nice, casual, low and slow pacing. However, I will say that after this episode, Ryan, I am feeling more in the Ryan camp of, like, I am totally pleased with what we've gotten, but now I hope this whole thing with Titania is the plot, because, like, we are now over a third of the way through the show. Let's get the plot going. Let's get the main story going. We have seen Titania for a grand total of like 8 seconds. So if she's really our big bad, great. Let's make that happen now. And it looks like, thankfully, even though we didn't get her at all in this episode, still, it looks like we're pushing in that direction, which is perfect.
I think the ending of the episode was kind of a nice way to get us back into the main story. Like, hey, this was fun. Now let's get back into the momentum of where we're going with this. So what I love about this, though, too, and let's talk about the cameos, because this is a cameo episode, right? And I love that she teases Wong, and she's like, everybody loves Wong, and she's like, here's a cameo, and now you guys have, it's like armor for our Twitter, right? Like, I love that line, because it just tells you how lame we are.
Yeah, really. And lame is you being kind. at that point.
But I love it. I think even for Tatiana as like an actor playing a character who's so meta and like at the same time like having just having fun, making fun of us. It's perfect. It's just so good. But I love that. Yes. So we talk about Wong coming in, and this is what I love is that like again we have Wong come in on her terms in terms and by her terms I mean it's her show, it's her. It's not like how do I phrase this? It's not like Loki where there's like a multi-genre of themes layered all on top of each other. This show's a lawyer show through and through. It's you have lawyer show and superhero moments. It's literally She-Hulk story. There's no multi-layers of themes here. It's literally a lawyer show. And then this is what I love. Wong comes in and he's like, we have a problem with this dude who I find is super annoying, and he failed at the Carmitage. And she's like, all right, well, did you, sign documents and all this stuff? Like, I love that. It felt like literally picking up an issue of She-Hulk, and it was
Right.
like a Wong filled issue. It's like She-Hulk number 81, and then like the Adventures of She-Hulk and Wong, and then it'll like a little side bubble like Wong's first appearance in the story, like something like that, right? Like it just felt like that moment. So I was all for it, and it was so fun, and I love the line like, oh, we do things by the book, and he's like, ah, yes, the Book of Ashanti. Like it's such a, you know what it is? It's a culture shock. It's a clash of two worlds in She-Hulk's terms, which is so fun.
Yes, Wong we have to remember he's been so separated from the world, and even though Doctor Strange kind of introduced him to the modern era and all the things that comes with, he still spends a lot of his time just in the sanctum hanging out. So he is still learning. We can't all learn as fast as Ultron, kids. We have to kind of pace ourselves and learn things. Luckily, he's doing that by ingesting popular culture. Wong has terrific taste in television because we got to see him watch not only The Sopranos but This Is Us. So we know Wong has good taste in the kind of shows he watches. I think that it's also time, if we're talking about Wong, we have to talk about the breakout star. We got to talk about Madison.
Madison. Oh,
where did this
God.
lady come from?
There's a lot of really good modern themes in this episode, with a lot of really fun modern characters. I want to say though, before we truly talk about Madison, is that originally in the trial for the People versus Abomination, or Emil Blonsky, we talked about how Wong doesn't seem like himself. It kind of is now very clear that he is himself. He's just trying to acclimate to the modern world, and he's trying, because Doctor Strange was not only able to come from a modern world and get into Carmitage, and then he became Sorcerer Supreme, and he fast-tracked it. So maybe Wong sees the value in like becoming more modern and like understanding the modern culture. So it kind of makes sense in that realm. And a guy can lose track of time in that kind of mindset. But yeah, seeing him watch Sopranos, that was so priceless. Funny enough is that my wife and I watched Sopranos, and I'm pretty sure the spoiler they dropped was just before where we got to. So it was kind of a spoiler for myself there, and just like, oh dang, oh well. But if we were really invested, we would have watched all of Sopranos.
That's the spot you just happen to be at right now?
Pretty much, yeah.
What are the odds
Adriana's still alive and when we were watching it.
I still remember that day when that episode aired, and I remember my dad was bummed out because he had a crush on Adriana. I think everybody had a crush on Adriana.
It's the wife, right? Adriana's the wife?
She's Christopher's wife. The younger guy's wife.
No.
She's like
oh, that hits me even harder.
It made it worse.
No. Why? Oh, I love that character. Oh.
Sorry, Ryan. She's gone.
Madison. Okay, let's talk about Madison here. First of all, great modern character. I think she's just a fun character. Like this was
Oh,
like the what's her name? Deborah Chow, I think was the head writer of this. She had fun with this character. Like it totally makes sense and it's fun.
I think I would actually pay to see the audition sides for this
Mhm.
and to see people auditioning for Madison. Like, can you imagine what that must have been like?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, just like but like the funny thing is like that performance that actress did, she immediately like she did such a good job that immediately you're like, I've seen that kind of person before. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's that performance that she does that she's so in it that you're like, I've seen those kind of people before and it makes me laugh so much.
It was a
But yeah,
notch more realistic than just like a caricature or an SNL sketch. Like, it wasn't cartoony. It was just one notch above that, where it's just like you're saying. Like, I know like two people who behave that way. Uh,
yeah, like Madison with a Y, but not where you think it is.
Not where you think.
Like, and the best part is it wasn't annoying. It was funny. Like like the second She-Hulk was like, we need to bring in a witness, and Wong's like, no, we shouldn't do this. And like I was like, no, are they gonna bring her back? Like I thought that was a one-off. Like we'll see her like in the court and that's it. No, we got plenty more of where that came from, and it was priceless.
What sold me on Madison was the way she delivered the line where she's testifying in court and she says that he opened the portal and he sent me to a world of flame. Like, just the way she said that so casually. Like, I'm like, this is brilliant. This girl is nailing every beat of this character.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so like comedic timing and everything, that actor deserves a lot of props. Whoever she is, she deserves a lot of she should get like a supporting cameo award of some kind. Like I don't know. She deserves it though. So yeah, the trial scene was hilarious. I love that the Donnie Blaze has like a hype guy, which is pretty funny. But okay, but Madison's interesting because Madison, in terms of a Marvel, like if your eyes are set for like Marvel content here, she's a distraction from some pretty intense content. Because if you listen
Ooh.
carefully to what she's saying she was in a fiery world where she did a deal with the Goat Man, and he cannot be named. So there's a lot, like I'm saying, there's a lot more there than meets the eye here, because like you could just wave it off as like, oh, this girl clearly doesn't know what she's talking about, but you have to just realize that Marvel is now, like I said, open the gates to essentially what could be Mephisto. And I don't want to be like Mephisto confirmed, because clearly Marvel's just toying with us at this point. They're just like, have fun with this. But like at the same time, and yes, for those of you listening, I was batting around a ball of yarn like a cat, or like a cat would. So at this point, she has dropped probably some of the biggest Marvel lore into the MCU that is layered onto all these events that are happening.
Yeah, you're so right. They cover it with this distracting veneer of hilarity, but
Mhm.
she's basically introducing, like, not Mephisto confirmed, but Limbo confirmed. Limbo is a Marvel location, and it is a world of fire where all the demons like to hang out and chill and listen to Britney Spears, I would imagine. So that's now in the world. It's now canon, kind of, in all but name, at least. And like we said, we know it's coming. We know we have a Blade movie coming. We have probably a Midnight Suns movie coming. We have Agatha coming. So it's all going to be here sooner rather than later. So just the idea of bringing it in here, I think what this actually does is it helps negate the future arguments of, like, let's say if Blade comes out and a bunch of people are arguing, we're like, if demons were real this whole time, how come we've never seen them in the MCU until now? So now we don't have to have that stupid conversation, because here they are, right? Madison brought them into the world for us to enjoy.
That statement alone is just priceless in itself, which is really good. Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's you're absolutely right, and I think that's what Marvel is doing. And it's not the first kind of taunting that Marvel's done. Loki played with us a little bit as well, with like the imagery of the devil and the pen just being absolutely nothing. But she went there. She admitted she made a deal with the devil, essentially,
Yeah.
and then later on we actually get to see like these goblins she talks about, which is just absolutely crazy. Like it's crazy. It is crazy how eye-opening that is for Marvel's world, like the MCU. Like the MCU now, like we either went street level or we went cosmic, and that's it. Like, and cosmic includes like the gods on your way to like space. But now through Moon Knight, through other through this show, like now we're going down that avenue of like, monsters and demons and spirituality essentially, which is absolutely insane. Like it's insane how wide this is opening.
Yeah, and it's exciting too.
Mhm.
And maybe what happens here might affect even like something as small as Werewolf by Night. Who knows if that's still real? Please still be real.
I honestly, yeah, there's so much riding on this D23. I feel like the pressure is getting too big for itself. Like honestly, I would not be surprised if literally they do X-Men, Fantastic Four, or walk out. Like they could easily just, and it fits the theme and it's perfect. Like it
Yeah,
literally goes, Stanley, it's been a few years now, or I think 2 or 3 years now, with Stanley's passing, and it's like, hey, now we have all the heroes under one roof, as you are aware, but now we can finally introduce to you Stanley's original creations, and here's the cast that will be playing them. Here's your Fantastic Four, boom, 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 boom. Here's your Doctor Doom, boom. Here's your X-Men, boom, 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 boom. Right?
right.
Giancarlo Esposito, your Professor X.
Yeah, and that's a great place for it because those also don't take as much time
Mhm.
as the slate we got at Comic Con. Right, that takes more time. It takes build up, whatever. This is less showy. It's just like here's all these people. Here's who like all Feige has to do is stand there and say, as Storm, please welcome blah 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 blah, and people go nuts, and that's it because they're going to have a lot less time for Marvel just because D23 is stacked, right? There's stuff everywhere. They can't just focus on one thing. So
Oh
I
yeah,
think,
like all he needs to do is literally Fantastic Four, X-Men, and within X-Men talk about Deadpool 3. And that's literally all he needs to do. And on top
right,
of that, you're right. Like the most of the time will probably be spent like, here's your Fantastic Four, here's the synopsis of the story, and here's your director. And director goes, yeah, I'm so excited. Yeah, it's really fun. It's going to change the way we look at Marvel films. Woo! It's going to be grounded and realistic, and it'll be really dark and bleak. But literally that will be it, and that's all they have to. They don't need to show trailers. They don't need to show anything because they don't need to. Everyone's waiting on the big announcement of casting. In fact, rumors are already feel like they're starting to leak a little bit. There's new casting news that. Did you see Free Guy?
no, I didn't see Free Guy,
Hmm.
but I think
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. The girl in Free Guy is supposedly Sue Storm,
Sue
right?
Storm, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like too close and it's too far out of left field for anyone to question it. You know what I mean? Because it's just like no one was thinking about her. I guarantee you. And this is what Marvel does best. No one thinks about casting this kind of person, and then Marvel does it.
well, I
And it's
didn't
like,
want to reveal it too far. D23 isn't happening yet, but what the hell? I'm going to spoil it. We all know it. Ryan, you have been cast as Reed Richards. It's confirmed that it's there. It is.
NDA, bro. We're not supposed to talk about it.
What's Feige gonna do? Oh, what's
It's
that? What's that out my window? What's going on?
oh my god, get down. But yeah, no, it's just too close. But my point is again, like they could announce Ghost Rider, they could announce like all sorts of things, but I would not be surprised. Like and going back, this episode's been very tangy. Like there's a lot of tangents here, but bringing it back in is that the timing of She-Hulk is very interesting. And this show has a lot of cameos for some, like a lot of cameos for some reason. Now, to time it so close to D3 is kind of like, that's kind of a long shot in the dark here. Like you're like, okay, we're gonna come out with the show She-Hulk, and it's gonna have all these cameos, and we're gonna make it come out near September. And by the way, September's D23, so it'd be perfect. So we'll have these episodes air these dates. I don't know. It kind of feels too lined up and planned, but at the same time, Feige is a good long-term planner. Like, so it's kind of a weird mark there. But anyway, so but like I said, like I think we're all getting overhyped with D23 at this point. Like it's gotten to a breaking point where like the expectations of now, like, and the expectations and the hype for it are right at the meeting point, and it could go over. But they could literally just give you 3 announcements, like, yeah, we got Deadpool, Wolverine's going to be in it, and here's the casting for Wolverine. Fantastic Four, we've been talking about it. All right, let's show you who our Fantastic Four are, and then here's the director. And literally, that's all they need to do. They do not need to do anything more. They do not need to do anything less.
And I'm 100% okay with that. And that reminds me, actually, we have a separate video that we made, strictly a video. It's not on the podcast network here, but if you go to the Digital Charcuterie YouTube channel, you can find our video that we did on our bets/predictions of what to find on D23 this coming weekend. It's a very quick video. It's like 8 minutes long, just some fun bets. You had your predictions, I had mine, and then we'll see how right/wrong we end up being. And that's again, that's on the Digital Charcuterie YouTube channel. So if you watch Infinity Rewatch instead of listening to it, hey, you're already on the right channel. You don't even have to travel far. You can just stay in the car and just change lanes, and you're there.
One quick thing I want to add when you watch the video, and this is why you need to be doing both, listening and watching, and listening and watching, is that I mentioned who are they going to introduce for superheroes. I meant who are they going to introduce as new superheroes, like Nova, Ghost Rider, Wonder Man, stuff like that.
Right.
Like, so that was my prediction, in case you're wondering, because like I said, like they're gonna do 12 casting announcements, I think was my number. And I'm like, and of them are like new superheroes, or of them I said superheroes are this. I don't want people to think they're gonna introduce 4 superheroes and then and then the rest of the announcements are villains. I just meant like the newer superheroes probably gonna be around like 4 that we're not expecting.
4 that we're not expecting. That's fair. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit that we're not expecting too.
I think like one quick primary thing I'm going to say for the X-Men is they're going to announce the casting of Rogue. They're going to announce the casting of Wolverine. They're going to announce the casting of Storm. And they're going to announce one more character. I don't know who that's going to be. Maybe Professor X. And then, but they could do an Eternals thing where they literally have the entire X-Men team lined up, and then they're like them in their like outfit above them, like the concept art. I hope they do that, because that Eternals, despite Eternals is rocky road, the way they presented them was pretty pristine.
And those are still some of the nicest costumes that they've ever done in a franchise full of nice costumes. So yeah, I hope they do that too.
But let's bring it back to She-Hulk.
Yeah, I got a theory for you, Ryan. You ready for this?
Yeah, I love theories.
Jennifer's date, the date that goes well, Mr. Dr. Man.
Yes.
Okay? I don't trust him. And here's why I don't trust him. He's a doctor. What kind of doctor did you say he was?
I don't recall. It was kind of like he kind of muttered through it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then she made fun of him too. She made fun of him, saying like, "What kind of doctor is that anyway?"
Yeah, she kind of challenged him on it, but he gave her a name, like a type of doctor, and it sounded real. And I'm like, okay, I think I've heard that before. This sounds like a real doctor. And I think he might very well be a real doctor of sorts. But here's the thing, maybe. Doctors are smart people, right?
Right.
So I refuse to believe that a doctor would knowingly go on a date with a Hulk and then not know that she had a human form. So I think that this is some kind of a more subtle approach than the Wrecking Crew of getting a DNA sample. As the saying goes, you don't use a bulldozer to dig out a China cup. And that's one of the Wrecking Crew is literally named Bulldozer. So I think this guy is the more precision instrument. He's the scalpel, a doctor who's getting the DNA sample in a different way. And I think he succeeded because he left there in a hurry. And I don't, this BS of like, oh, who are you? Who do you think? Like, don't you know how the Hulk works, pal? So, yeah, I don't trust this guy. He may be a doctor, he may be lying, but I think he's definitely there to swipe some blood or saliva.
Interesting theory. Interesting theory indeed. I don't know. I like your theory. I think it's good. But more often than not, sometimes you look too far in. Like, I'm not saying you specifically, but like fans in general will look too
The
much
royal
into
you.
Yeah. The I think sometimes scenes like that, like I think the only phrase I could say is sometimes a rock is just a rock. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing more to it, nothing less. And I think that this is a guy who fell in love with one, person, and or fell attracted to one person, and then once the lights come on and all the things, all the yeah, just the lights come on and all is revealed, then it's like, oh, you're not actually this person I'm attracted to, and then you walk away. I think that's kind of like the feeling they were going for, and they definitely nailed it. Could you be right? Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of people after her, and then the timing of it all too. Because I think either earlier or later in the episode, the dad comes in and says, "We got to beef up security in your place," and she's like, "Well, I'm a Hulk." Right? Like, so there is that theme. Like, one thing I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to see, like, I'm trying to pay attention more of like taking a step back and looking at the simple story building here. Like, not trying to look at as a Marvel fan and like ripping apart like every little detail, like a Sherlock Holmes, but like for me, like what was the theme of this episode? And the theme of this episode is like people can be fake. And like you have the magician Donnie Blaze. He's a con artist, like
Very
essentially he's a
fake.
fake, very fake. She goes on a date and the guy talks about people are fake. And then she goes or she has a drink with her friend Nikki, and she talks about, why don't you go on Match Her as She-Hulk? Why don't you be fake? Right? So like that kind of thing. And that's why she's like, I thought you didn't like the She-Hulk name. Oh, I think, it's catchy, right? Like
It is
you should
catchy.
market it. Yeah, so you should market it kind of thing. So that's why I'm like, I do like your theory, and I could easily just agree with you and like totally pick it apart. But at the same time, if based on your philosophy of like you love the story to build out and you love the character to build out, this was about what it is to be fake, and like like the fake it till you make it, that kind of thing. So and how does She-Hulk learn from that? I think that was the theme of this entire episode.
And you know what, buddy? The beauty of it is, if that's the case, if I'm totally wrong, that still makes for a wonderful, interesting story. So
Yeah,
it's
I
like
mean,
either way, I'm happy.
I loved how awkward that scene really was, because it's like there are like there are situations like that people go through, right? Like it's just like you have this incredible, night with a person, and then the next day they're a completely different person. And then you're totally shut out, and you're just like, why? You're just like, you want to walk away because this person's not who you think they were, right? So that is a feeling we all do share. And that, I think, that scene had just the right amount of breathing room to really land that, and it really did a good job at that. And then we kick into being this is Venus. I love how the length they go to serve people, and that in that in that world that a guy has to come dressed up with a gift box and just show me the subpoena. Like, what am I being served on now?
Have you ever been served any kind of papers?
Yes, I have.
Is it that kind of thing where like somebody shows up and they go under like a pretense of like, hey, are you Ryan?
No, not in the sense they come with like a giant gift box and like,
Yeah,
hey,
it could
there's
be
this
anything.
lovely box. Yeah, it could be anything, right? No, it's just this person in a suit comes and just they ask for your name and they go, you've been served, and then they give you a letter and then you read through it.
Wow.
And just so we're all aware, before anyone starts thinking this is going to take a dark turn, I got an offender bender, and the person the person at the time, I called the ambulance and everything. The person didn't ask for ambulance. They didn't, and we exchanged insurance information, and then that was all the last I heard about it. And then like fast forward 2 weeks later, person comes in a suit and says you're being served. And the interesting thing was about it was that was the absolute last day they could serve me.
Wow.
So yeah.
Like I always found those people really fascinating. Like, where did this person approach you at your place of work?
No, at home.
At home. Okay. So like this guy found your address, tracked you down. Like, I wonder what he would have done if you were just not at home.
Yeah, well, I think they would have tried again. My understanding of the situation, I don't know how it fully works. My understanding was the situation was like the day they could register and serve was like the last possible day based on the letter or something like that. But anyway, but yeah, so that was the whole fender bender thing, and then thankfully, like I wrote down my story and like I told the cops all the details and everything, so it was all like on paper that like this person refused medical care and like everything, and then later on they tried to put it back on me. So
Wow.
yeah, so but I thought that was really funny that like she's just like, just show me the paper, like. And what also is funny about that scene as well is that the whole reason why She-Hulk exists, the whole reason was that Hulk got so successful. There was a TV studio that was trying to capture the Hulk show because it was doing so well that they were going to do a female version. And in order to beat the copyright claims, Marvel put out the fastest comic ever, and that was She-Hulk. And they literally threw it out there just to avoid any like that way they could trademark it, and that was it.
That's right, because that was around the same time that the Bionic Woman show had come out as
Yes.
a flip side to the $6 Million Man. So whoever was in charge of that Hulk show, I don't know which studio, rushed the same thing, and then Stan Lee's like, "Oh no, you don't."
Just always one step ahead, Stan.
Uh,
But I mean, it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing if you think about it, because like they rushed it. They rushed that show, or sorry, they rushed that comic out, and yet they still created one of the most iconic characters.
right.
Like, despite She-Hulk, people could argue that She-Hulk's kind of like a B-listing character. She's not. She's been around since the Silver Age of comics. And she made such big waves. She's been a part of some big stories. And she's just a fun character. She's a really fun character.
I was at, do you know Gotham Central Comics in Mississauga? I'm sure you must have
Yes.
been there. Yeah. I was there last week, and it's so tempting, Ryan. I have to stop myself because they had almost all the Marvel omnibuses, right? And they had the She-Hulk one there. And the She-Hulk one was there, and it was staring at, and they had like the Spider. I went like in the back area, and they had all the other ones. And, like, those things are like $100 a pop. If I was rich, but they're beautiful, man. And there's a lot of issues they pack in there, so it's like,
it's interesting because, okay, so it's funny you bring that up, and perfect timing too. So I sent you as a gift once. I sent you a comic that like basically tells the entire Marvel story in a comic book. Like it gives you the Marvel comic universe, like in 2 volumes, I think it was. So what they've done now is they've created a series for each character. So they've done one for She-Hulk, they've done one for Hawkeye, they've done one for Spider-Man, they've done one for Doctor Strange. So like those ones, I'm actually a little more interested in. I was interested in the Moon Knight omnibus at one point, and I was like, oh man, I want to check this out. But I'm kind of more on the idea of like this comic run, because like there's actually been a couple of comics that they've done that is like there's one called Avengers Forever. And so they had like a solid story arc for the Avengers that kind of ended in like just before the 90s, and then they started doing these different storytelling series. But then they did a comic book run called Avengers Forever, and they literally continue exactly where the 80s one or like late 80s one ended and continued the story. So it's like a full story arc, which is really cool. My brother introduced it to me, and the best part is about those comics is they kind of do um a modern art style of the classic art style. So it's literally the same look and feel, but it's just modern, and it's really a really good way of storytelling. But the reason why I bring it back up is like they do these like overarching story, like major story arcs of the character, and they'll put it in one comic, and it's like half that price easily. And for me, I've been going more the digital comic route because I literally my apartment is very, very tiny. I'm running out of room for all this stuff. So now I'm going more digital, and it's pretty sweet. Like I have a great laptop that's like it's the Surface Pro 8, got a rep. But it's Surface Pro 8, but it's a tablet. It's a tablet that performs like a laptop essentially. It has a full laptop processor and everything. But it's great for me for reading comics because it literally is like a nice, easy thing to hold, and I can just swipe through and read as if I'm reading an actual comic. So I'm thinking about getting the digital comics of those because they're way more affordable, and I could just grab them at any time and just weed through it.
Those ones are cheaper, those classic ones?
Yeah. I can look it up for you, but I think it was like $20.
For an omnibus on digital?
It's not like don't think of it as an omnibus. It's like a beginning. It's like here are the beginning comics of stories you need to know about this character.
Oh right, yeah, the like the greatest hits essentially.
Yeah, it's the greatest hits, but it's like the greatest hits of like critical character development for this character.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm very tempted to get them because like there's like Doctor Strange, for example, like they actually had a really good layout of his story based on the previews I saw. It was worth checking out.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, those would be.
And again, if you like that comic I gave you, then you'd like those comics because that's exactly what they do.
Are they like super tall like that one too? Ooh, nice. Yeah, that was a really nice book that you gave me.
Yeah,
that whole history spanning thing is beautiful to look at too. Every page was just like.
I have good. I am not a good consistent gift giver, but when I have those moments, I have those moments. Not to toot my own horn, but I do.
Oh, you had that moment, my friend. Toot away. Oh boy. Well, so anything else we want to say about episode 4 of the Hulk Lady?
Where's Daredevil?
Oh, he's coming. He's coming.
Let's get that appearance coming here, people. I want to see.
I'm more like, where's Titania? Like, she's. Let's have our main villain actually be in the show. And once we get to her, then everything else that comes will be just the cherry on the sundae, and that includes Daredevil. And apparently, weren't we supposed to be getting Howard the Duck in this show, or was that all just hearsay? You remember that?
I think that was here. I remember that. I remember that coming up, but I think that's hearsay.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know. Yeah, no, I would like to see Howard the Duck personally. I think he might be like a very last cameo, like kind of thing.
Maybe.
But do you think? What are the odds, sir? That yeah, I'm asking it. I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing. All right. What are the odds that Titania will only have appearances in the beginning, the middle, and the end?
I hope they're low, because A, that's your main villain, and B, it's Jamila Jamil. I want to see as much of her as I possibly can. So I'm going to say, if they're smart, 23% at most. What about you?
Pretty low number.
Mhm.
I honestly think it's pretty high, actually. Here's why, though. Here's why. Because you could easily do like a beginning episode where she makes her appearance. Here's Titania. You do a middle episode where you go deep dive in on this character and get all the backstories to why. And then 8 and 9, like on the latter end, you're going to get like right on the latter end of 8 into 9, you get like the big conflict and resolution all in one. And then in the middle of the one, like episode 1, episode 5, and episode 9, you get all the cameos and all that stuff with some small, tiny moments of like Titania's like deep and dark plan. It feels like that could be it.
That does sound like something they would do. In fact, I think that the idea of, like, let's say, for example, next week's episode being just Titania, like you only get Jen at the end, could be very likely too. Right? I mean, it's cheaper, just from a purely cynical number standpoint, it's cheaper to point the camera at Jamila than it is to point the camera at a CGI green lady. So maybe they do that.
Maybe. I don't know. I just have a feeling that just the way these shows have been playing out. But at the same time, like it's 9 episodes and we're only on 4. So we still got 5 more glorious 40-minute long episodes of She-Hulk. And like, God, I
hope they're 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, they've been averaging about 35, 30, 7, somewhere around there. But honestly, after this, man, I hope they use Tatiana more. I want to see her in Avengers movies. I want to see her, that was another thing I didn't talk about in predictions, but there's a West Coast Avengers story that involves Kang and involves Moon Knight and I think it involves She-Hulk and Valkyrie and Hawkeye, but there's a few ways you could do her. I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel announces an A-Force movie.
I was just thinking A-Force, man. That would be something else. Get Valkyrie in there. Get I don't know if Gwyneth. I feel like Gwyneth doesn't want to do rescue.
No, but you can get Wasp, Evangeline, right? You
and
can get
Stature.
Yeah. Or no, she's using a different name now. She's not Stature.
Stinger.
She's Stinger. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Stinger. You could also get your
Miss
favorite.
Marvel.
Well, I was gonna say your favorite Kate Bishop.
Ooh, yeah, Kate Bishop. Yeah, get Yelena maybe. I'm already waiting at the theater. Like,
I'm already buying tickets. Let's go. But yeah, I would not be surprised if they pulled that. And you can also get oh my god, I always forget her name. Photon, Spectrum. I think it's Spectrum.
I just call her Monica because I always mix up those two names. So I'm like, I know her name is Monica. Let's just go with that.
I hope she gets her suit in the next time we see her. And I want to see that white trench coat so badly.
We get the white. We get A-Force with her and all those people and the white trench coat, and special guest star in A-Force, Madison.
But with the Y, but not where you think it is.
Somewhere else. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, hands down.
I'm down for that movie. Ryan, where can the good people find you when you're not writing and directing this A-Force movie we just
honestly, you can find me over on twitch.tv/Xbox Canada. If you have been checking me out on there, I apologize. Work's been a bit crazy for me right now. Just me acclimating into my new role. And by acclimating, I've been in my role for a while now, but there's a lot going on right now. It's a busy time of year for us. And then you can find me over on Twitter at Crusader Online. And yeah, leave your comments. And really, I encourage you guys, throw in your theories, throw in your questions. I think Fantasia and I are just as excited to not only pick apart our own theories, but pick apart yours. I want to know. a fellow viewer came on a while back and they were saying like War of the Gods could be coming. I don't know. I mean, that's a good theory. It's a really laid out theory, but I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't.
Just because Hercules is announced doesn't mean they're going to do War of the Gods.
Yeah, and based on the gods we met there, I don't really care about most of them except Thor and now Hercules. So I don't know, unless Wonder Woman shows up, then we might have something. But now she's too busy. She's going to be in A-Force. You can find me on Twitter, dodging all of the negativity, which is kind of like trying to dodge rain in a tsunami. And then you can find me on Instagram at Andrew Fantasia, and that's the same Twitter handle as well. And on my own Andrew Fantasia YouTube channel. I went to the dentist today, fun fact, and they put on YouTube for me to watch something while I'm at the dentist. And I was like, I told the hygienist, I'm like, if you search my name, you can find my channel. So they literally put on my channel while they were checking my teeth.
Oh, there you go. Amazing.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for talking about She-Hulk and Madison with me today. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a marvelous day.